Potato chips. In 1853, at Moon's Lake House in Saratoga Springs, New York, a chef named George Crumb received a complaint. A picky customer claimed that his fried potatoes were too thick and soggy. Frustrated, Crumb sliced the potatoes paper thin, fried them to a crisp, and salted them heavily, expecting the customer to hate it. But the unexpected happened. The customer loved the ultra-crispy texture. The mistake became an instant hit, and Crumb's creation was soon known as Saratoga chips, one of the earliest forms of what we now call potato chips. Cheese. Thousands of years ago, somewhere in the Middle East, a traveler was carrying milk on a long journey across the desert. But he wasn't using a modern bottle. He stored it in a pouch made from a sheep's stomach. Back then, people didn't have plastic or glass bottles. As he traveled under the scorching sun, the heat and the natural enzymes like rennet and chymosin inside the pouch caused the milk to separate into curds and whey. When the traveler opened it, he found that the milk had transformed into something new, solid, tangy, and edible. It wasn't spoiled, it was cheese. Curious, he tasted it. And to his surprise, it was good. The chocolate chip cookie. In the late 1930s in Massachusetts, a woman named Ruth Wakefield was running a roadside inn called the Toll House. One day, while baking her usual batch of butter cookies, she realized she had run out of baker's chocolate. Thinking on her feet, Ruth chopped up a bar of Nestlé semi-sweet chocolate and stirred the chunks into the dough, expecting them to melt into the batter. But when she pulled the cookies from the oven, something unexpected had happened. Those chunks had kept their shape. Instead of a smooth chocolate cookie, she had crispy-edged treats dotted with warm, gooey bits of chocolate. The result? A total hit with her guests. The cookies became so popular that Nestlé made a deal with Ruth. They'd print her recipe on every package of chocolate, and she'd get a lifetime supply. Cornflakes. In the 1890s, in Michigan, two brothers, John and Will Kellogg, were working at a sanitarium searching for healthy food options for their patients. One day, they accidentally left a pot of boiled wheat sitting out for too long. By the time they returned, the mixture had gone stale. Instead of tossing it, they decided to run it through rollers, hoping to salvage it. But instead of a doughy sheet, the wheat broke into thin flakes. Curious, they baked those flakes, and what came out was crispy, light, and surprisingly tasty. The patients loved it. And when they later repeated the process with corn instead of wheat, the result was even better. Sandwich. In the 18th century, in England, a nobleman named John Montagu, the 4th Earl of Sandwich, had a serious gambling habit. He could spend hours at the card table without leaving his seat, not even to eat. One day, too hungry to keep playing but too committed to stop, he asked his servant to bring him something he could eat with one hand. The solution? Meat tucked between two slices of bread. It was practical. No fork, no mess, and no need to stop the game. Other players began to ask for the same as sandwich, and eventually the name stuck. The ice cream cone. At the 1904 World's Fair in St. Louis, a popular ice cream vendor found himself in trouble. He had run out of bowls. The line of eager customers kept growing, but he had no way to serve the ice cream. Right next to him, a waffle seller named Ernest Hamwee was watching the situation unfold. Seeing the vendor's panic, he stepped in to help. He quickly rolled one of his thin, crisp waffles into the shape of a cone while it was still hot, and offered it to the vendor as a makeshift container. The vendor placed a scoop of ice cream inside, and just like that, something magical happened. Customers loved it. Not only was it practical, but it also added a sweet crunch to their dessert. And before long, other vendors began adopting the idea too. Blue cheese. Long ago in southern France, a young shepherd took shelter in a cool limestone cave. He had with him a simple meal, bread and fresh cheese. But just as he sat down to eat, he spotted a beautiful woman passing by. Without a second thought, he abandoned his food and ran after her. Days later, he returned to the cave, only to find his forgotten meal covered in mold. The cheese was veined with blue and green. Most people would have tossed it away, but the shepherd, driven by hunger or curiosity, took a bite. To his surprise, it wasn't spoiled. It was sharp, creamy, and rich in flavor. That mold was Penicillium roqueforti, naturally present in the cave's air. And the cheese he had just rediscovered? It became known as Roquefort, one of the world's most iconic blue cheeses. Kopi Luwak. During the Dutch colonial era in Indonesia, local farmers were banned from picking coffee beans from the plantations. They could only watch as the beans were harvested for the wealthy. But one day, someone noticed something strange in the jungle. Wild civet cats were eating ripe coffee cherries, and later, passing the beans undigested. Curious, a farmer collected those beans from the droppings, cleaned them, roasted them, and brewed a cup. The result? Smooth, low-acid coffee with a unique aroma. Eggs Benedict. One morning in the 1890s, at the Waldorf Hotel in New York City, a man named Lemuel Benedict stumbled into the restaurant, hungover and desperate for relief. He wasn't a chef, just a Wall Street broker with a pounding headache. He asked the kitchen for a strange combination: buttered toast, poached eggs, crisp bacon, and hollandaise sauce. The chef was intrigued, swapped toast for an English muffin, replaced bacon with ham, and refined the dish. The result? A creamy, rich, satisfying plate that cured more than just a hangover. The hotel loved it, so did the guests. They put it on the menu and called it Eggs Benedict in honor of the man who invented it, accidentally. Crackers. Long ago, in early 19th century Massachusetts, a baker named Josiah Bent was preparing bread for long sea voyages. The goal? To make something that would last for weeks without spoiling. But something strange kept happening. His dough wouldn't rise properly. Rather than toss it, he rolled it thin, baked it hard, and let it crisp. The result was a dry, flat, and crunchy bread that stayed good for months. Sailors loved it. It was durable, portable, and didn't go bad. These hard, flat snacks came to be known as crackers, named after the cracking sound they made when broken. Dango. Long ago in Japan, a sleepy confectioner was working late into the night. He was supposed to mold rice flour dough into beautiful, detailed shapes for an upcoming festival. But his eyes were heavy, his hands tired. Instead of making the usual fancy forms, he simply rolled the dough into little round balls, quick and easy. Too sleepy to think further, he skewered them on a stick and steamed them. The next morning, customers were curious about this odd new shape. They tasted it and loved it. The chewy texture, the bite-sized pieces, the convenience. It was perfect. Soon, other vendors began copying the idea. Boiled peanuts. In the American South, peanuts were everywhere, mostly roasted, dry, and crunchy. But one day, someone had had enough. Tired of the same old snack, they threw a handful of raw peanuts, shells and all, into a pot of boiling water with some salt. Why? Maybe out of frustration. Maybe just to try something new. Hours later, something surprising came out of the pot. Soft, salty, earthy peanuts, with a taste unlike anything else. People started trying it too. Some added spices. Others made it their road trip snack, or sold it at baseball games and roadside stands. Today, boiled peanuts are a Southern classic. Natto. Centuries ago in Japan, a group of samurai were traveling during wartime. They carried boiled soybeans wrapped in straw, an easy meal for the road. But as the journey stretched on, they forgot about the beans. Tied to the backs of their horses, the beans sat in the warm, humid air for days. When they finally opened the straw, surprise, the beans were sticky, slimy, and covered in strings. Most would have thrown it away, but someone tasted it. It was strange, but savory, earthy, and full of umami. That was the unexpected birth of natto. Popsicle. In 1905, in Oakland, California, an 11-year-old boy named Frank Epperson was playing outside with a cup of powdered soda mix and water. He stirred it with a wooden stick and then forgot all about it. That night, temperatures dropped unexpectedly. By morning, the mixture had frozen solid, with the stick still inside. Curious, Frank pulled it out and licked it. It was sweet, cold, delicious. Years later, he remembered that childhood accident, and in 1923, he patented the treat under the name Popsicle. Nashville hot chicken. In the 1930s, in Nashville, Tennessee, a woman suspected her partner, Thornton Prince, of being unfaithful. To teach him a lesson, she cooked up his favorite dish, fried chicken. But this time, she loaded it with an overwhelming amount of hot spices and cayenne pepper, hoping to make it painfully inedible. The result? He loved it. The fiery heat only made the crispy chicken more addictive. Instead of being punished, Thornton turned the spicy twist into a signature recipe. He perfected it and eventually opened Prince's Hot Chicken Shack, where the dish gained legendary status. Which one's your favorite? Comment, like, and don't forget to subscribe.